Cousin, can you hear me?
All right, I can hear you. Can you hear
Can you
me?
hear me? I can hear you now.
Very good. Is my video going?
Say it again.
Is the video on? Let's see.
We're on. I can hear you.
Very good. All righty. All right, are we 100% here?
We are. You coming in a little low?
Okay, hold on. Let me look at that.
I can hear you though, but you are coming in a little low.
Let's see if I can do anything about that. Let's see.
Might not be able to. I may have to do it on the editing if I have to.
Speakers, switch to phone audio, your audio, audio settings. 1 second. Okay, speaker is good. Microphone, let's turn that up. Doesn't want to increase my microphone. Automatically adjust microphone volume. No, let's just do it automatically. Is that getting better?
Yes, it's getting. I hear it.
All righty.
I'm coming in okay. Not too
Yeah,
loud.
yeah, yeah. You're perfect. You're perfect. Apologies first. I am in the middle of a home renovation, as you saw.
Yes.
Uh, I will have at least one worker in here while I'm here, but I asked him to keep it down.
No
So
problem.
let's see how that goes.
Well, we're
Good to
gonna get
meet
it. We're
you.
gonna get started because I haven't started recording yet. So we'll go ahead and get started. You have
Very
any questions before I hit record?
No, not at all. Let me just make one little adjustment and just get my tea. 1 second.
Yes, I got my water next to me.
All right. And before we get started, tell me how we are connected. I know we are related, but
Yes. So
through whom?
Robert Irick is brothers with Jacob,
Right?
right?
Whose wife
And
just
and
was
is
buried
he's
last
my
week.
granddaddy's first cousin.
Jacob
So
was
your father was my granddaddy's first cousin.
okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
And I just learned that when your father passed, that he gave 10 grand to a church, what Brown Church?
Yes, absolutely. We did. Yeah,
Yes,
we did. Yeah. Yeah, there's a little newspaper article from I forget the Democrat Times Democrat
Times and Democrat.
that shows me in the picture giving the check. Yeah, so
Absolutely. Okay.
we were happy to do that.
Yes. And so the house, my dad was telling me the house that he used to have was out there, like in near Bonneville.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And we just sold
back in
that.
that area.
Yes, just sold it. Absolutely. And of course, you are aware that Jacob's wife, Lily Bell, was just buried, what, last
Yes,
week, week
recently.
before?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
recently. Yeah, not too
yes.
long ago.
And where are you right now? Are you in Orangeburg?
I am in Orangeburg right this moment. I'm at my parents' house.
Gotcha. But you usually don't live in Orangeburg.
No, no, no. I live in Atlanta. I live in Atlanta.
God,
I literally just came home this weekend because my nephew, had to go to the emergency room to get some. He was assaulted while he was in New York. He was hit in the mouth with a shovel. Broke
wow.
his jaw, fractured his jaw, and this was about 2 months ago. And so he's
Gee,
been literally drinking, eating, out of a straw, sipping everything out of straw for the past 2 months. And so
wow.
today, yeah, we took him to get it removed today. He's still at the hospital right now. So I
And
said
does he live there or was he visiting?
he lives in New York. He lives in New York.
Wow.
Yes,
Oh.
yes.
Oh. And is he going to live in New York anymore?
um, the plan is for him to move back down here until he can like literally it has shook him. It shook him
Of course.
mentally. Like he was out of it, angry, depressed. Like he just went through these, range of emotions.
I
Um,
bet.
and so like he's been in counseling, and so for as of right this moment, we're just taking it day by day and trying to get him healed properly because it just had a mental toll on him. So yeah, so we've
Wow.
been kind of just dealing with that for the past couple months, to be honest with you.
I
Um,
totally get
Fortunately,
that.
he's a graphic designer, so
Mhm.
literally he can work from anywhere,
Uh-huh.
and so he's still been able to be able to work.
Good.
Just to keep, and that kind of helps him keep his mind from wandering a lot as well. So he goes in and out, but it's definitely better than it was because man, that first month, like literally, we had to have him committed, like literally in the hospital in the psych ward for almost 3 weeks
You
before
are
he
kidding.
actually got to a
Wow.
place where he could be, self sufficient.
And he was just attacked.
Huh?
He was attacked on the
Yes,
street
yes, yes.
by more than one person.
Yep, yep. Well,
Wow. Wow.
he identifies being gay,
Mhm.
and that even in New York, you have a segment of people who are 110% against that, and
Yes.
yeah,
And
so
he was out at night.
exactly,
Oh, wow. Well, let me not drag you through all of that. But wow, that is shocking news. Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's
Gee.
that's what we're dealing with at this moment. But I'm going back to Atlanta tonight. Get back after he gets back and get good. I mean, he's staying with my parents now,
Yes.
um, just so he can get himself back together.
Gotcha.
So when it comes to the podcast, basically we're gonna play. I'm gonna play the intro, and I'm gonna do a quick introduction for our sponsors, and then I'm gonna come in and give the introduction, and literally after it's gonna go something similar to life Journeys podcast is the only podcast that focuses on individuals sharing their life experiences for the betterment of helping other people. Today's guest is Rick Irick. He's going to share a little bit about what he's experienced to become the man that he is today.
And is
And
it audio only or audio and video?
we really it's audio.
Okay.
So if you want to do video, we can, but it's literally audio because this
Yeah.
is going to be on like literally we on Pandora, we on Apple, iTunes, we on everything right now. So
Very good. All right.
iHeartRadio. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm ready.
so
Good for you.
um, but that's about it.
Ready when you are.
You ready?
Ready.
All righty, get started then. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we are recording now. Life Journey Podcast is sponsored by Akili Flow. Akili Flow is a culturally centered coaching organization that uses meditation and comedic yoga to help you balance your work and your life. Set up an appointment with them today. Visit www.akiliflow.com. That's AKILIFLOW.com and book your free session. Keep faith in God. The star don't make the light. The light is what creates the star. Shine inside. Hello, 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 everyone. I'm your host, Demetrius Irick with Life's Journey Podcast, the only podcast that uses the experience of everyday people to share in hopes of helping other individuals avoid or prevent similar issues. Today's host, we have Rick Irick, who will be sharing his experiences and what shaped him to be the man that he is today. Rick, are you on board with me today?
Glad to be here today. Yes, sir.
Glad to have you, man. As we stated, Life Journey Podcast truly designed is to help individuals learn from your experiences. I created this podcast under the pretense of trying to avoid uh, the known artists or celebrities and their stories because we have so many people that live life daily that are everyday heroes. And I wanted to just share or give them an opportunity to share what they have gone through. Every last person has a story. They've gone through something. And I just feel that if we are able to share that, it may help somebody. So that's how and why I created this podcast. And I'm so glad to have you aboard. I'm thankful that you answered the call and that you're willing to share your story with our audience today. So tell us a little bit, Mr. Irick, about what made you the man that you are today.
Well, I'm happy to be here, as I mentioned. I am happy to share my humble story. Um, and it really starts in the projects of New York. I was the uh, second of three boys. And well, while my mother was a registered nurse, my father was a laborer. And we were raised in Brooklyn, New York, Bedford-Stuyvesant, which I could not afford to live in today if I had to, but in the day it was the ghetto. We were a family of three, and my mom and dad really impressed upon us the need to grow and to succeed. And so for me, it was just about going to school, about having an intact family with a present father. And I think those were the beginnings that really kind of launched me into, let's just say, getting out of that geographical situation and on to another where I live today. I live in Washington, D.C. Now, if you ask me any particular thing that was helpful along the way, I think the first thing I'll think of is my high school. Well, in New York, as a New Yorker, we had options of, well, not really an option. You had to go to your neighborhood high school. My neighborhood high school would have been Boys High School in Brooklyn, New York, which did not have a reputation that one would admire. I was lucky, however, in that I had been a music student. I've been a piano guy and had taken lessons that my parents paid for years. And so I had what it took to get into the High School of Performing Arts. It was the first of what now is a national number of arts high schools. And if you ask me, that was my ticket. Not having to relegate myself to the regular underperforming high school in my neighborhood, which was all Black, I should say, and finding myself immersed in this very exclusive, although public school, but mixed with students that were from homes of enormous wealth, a mostly white student body, and very select. Only 60 people were in my class in the music department in my graduating class at the end. And well, there were 60 dance students, 60 drama students. So all told, it was a very small school. So we got attention, we got intense arts training, certainly academic training, but it opened up my eyes and opened up my world to possibilities that I don't think I would have dreamed of otherwise.
That makes sense. Being in that type of environment and being exposed to different cultures and different individuals, I think, like you said, that was an eye opener. So, at being, you being a minority in that environment, how did you feel when you stepped foot in that environment?
Well, make no mistake, there were some other Black students. This is an arts high school, and I think we do arts better than a lot of folks. So there were some other Black students. There were select Black students. Everyone had to audition, and you had to maintain your presence in that school by proving yourself twice a year. We'd have to prepare a project. I was doing classical music on piano, and you had to be evaluated twice a year. And if you failed one of those evaluations, you'd find yourself in your neighborhood high school. So for me, at least, that was a powerful incentive to want to stay there, to do all 4 years, and to graduate from that. Sadly, I didn't continue with the music, but it was definitely my tool for staying in that situation away from my neighborhood high school. And well, as you said, it opened up the possibilities that I then was aware of and pursued.
Being in that environment, I am sure, and it's also just being um, musically gifted, or there's a certain level of discipline that's required. Um, Speak about a look the discipline that it took from you. I know, like normally, I was in the band as well, nowhere near what you, but but I knew I had to miss a lot of um, times with my friends in the neighborhood because I had to practice. And we were, every day we were doing practice even after school. Had to practice when I was at home. But that did instill a certain level of discipline in me that I noticed some of the other neighborhood kids didn't have, or responsibilities. So I'm sure that for you being in a select school like that, there was a certain level of discipline and sacrifices you were required to do.
Absolutely. And indeed, to prepare these projects, again, twice a year, you had to prove and, well, you had to maintain your seat because there are lots of kids from all over the city that would love to have your seat in this very select situation. And you had to defend it twice a year. So it would take a lot of going home and sitting at the piano and going through compositions that I wasn't really that fond with, or maybe just not familiar with at first, and having to attain a certain mastery level that you could then display in front of the questioning eye of a couple of teachers who would sit there and decide if you had wrapped your mind and your talent and your, in my case, fingers around that composition sufficiently so that you could continue to stay there. And trust me, during the 4 years that I was there, I did say goodbye to several of my classmates who didn't uh,
Wow.
retain their spots.
Wow.
So we started at a higher number. I don't remember how many people were admitted as freshmen, but that old adage, look to your left, look to your right. One of those two people will not graduate with you. That was definitely a part of the High School of Performing Arts when I attended.
Wow. Doggy dog world. You have to fight, you have to stay on top of it in order to be a
It's the
part of the
real
league.
world. It's the real world, isn't it?
Now, I'm sure you learned some life lessons from this as well.
It was definitely that. But I should say it just opened up my eyes. I didn't know anything else besides my family and my neighborhood, and my situation was just around that until I went to this high school. And as I mentioned, I was attending with students who could have purchased all of Brooklyn, New York, or at least their parents could have. These were rich, uh, very privileged kids who were sitting side by side, having to defend themselves and their seats in that school. And they considered a very uh, nice privilege to be able to attend this high school. And of course, their academics were not the academics that were being taught in my neighborhood high school. So I was introduced to literature and language and a number of things I think may have passed me by had I not gone there. Plus, it certainly opened my eyes to college. And I think I was college oriented anyway, but I think I could have gone a different way had I not been pressed into this academic instruction from that high school.
Awesome. Awesome. And I just want to ask you one question about that. How was the teachers? Were they very supportive in cultivating those young minds?
Well, I think they were, because again, these were predominantly white, well-to-do kids
Mhm.
and with a sprinkling of black kids. And so I never felt as though I was getting less than because I was black. Most of the teachers were white. There were a couple of teachers that were black. My science teacher, Mr. Cook, was black. One of my math teachers, Miss Smith, was black. And this is during the Black Power kind of movement that was going through the country. And so I looked to them and their immense afros for some type of way to relate while attending this predominantly white school. And they were very effective in doing just that and helping me stay connected.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So you took this experience to college, and how did that enhance your academics and discipline?
Well, I went to a college and spent a year in it before I decided I didn't want to go right into college. I needed a break. So after my freshman year at college, I decided that I would go into the Navy because I had a real desire to see the world. I wanted to travel, and I certainly couldn't afford to do it on my own. The military was beckoning because, well, they offered this wonderful thing called tuition reimbursement. The GI Bill is what was called. And certainly I and my parents had been struggling with my first year's tuition. So having this promise of having my tuition paid, also having this promise of world travel was just too much for me to resist. And so I didn't. I enlisted and went into the Navy, where I spent 4 years and set foot on every inhabited continent while I was enlisted. So that in turn brought introduced new scenarios, new horizons. And because of the Navy experience, I remain today a dedicated cruiser, transatlantic cruiser, and a traveler. I absolutely have repeated my steps and visits to various countries on the inhabited continents of the world.
Share what are some of those contents you were able to put your feet on.
Well, I definitely started with my very first introduction was the Asian continent. I was assigned by mistake to the Pacific portion of the Navy, even though I had requested that I wanted to be in the Atlantic portion, which would have been Europe. However, they sent me over and I found myself in Taiwan. I visited Japan, Hong Kong. Fortunately, this is all after Vietnam. This is post-Vietnam, so I didn't have to worry about doing any war.
Okay.
So I was over there for about 6 months before they then corrected their mistake. I was gone. I went in, I signed in to the Navy, and they were so interested that they promised that I could get whatever portion of the world I wanted to be assigned to. And then they reneged on it and sent me to somewhere where I didn't ask to be. So it took 6 months to correct that. But in the 6 months that I was there, I got to check out all these other places.
Wow.
And then suddenly they said, you know what? We're going to send you over to the Atlantic portion like you wanted to be. And so I flew from Asia to Europe and joined a ship that was moored in Spain, and continued to visit many of the European ports, intermingled with, I call it commuting back to the United States. My ship was one that, well, the job of this ship was to transport Marines from the United States to Europe, let them play their games, bring them back to the United States, and then grab a different set of Marines, transport them down to the Caribbean, let them play their games, their war games, and then bring them back. So I basically, for most of the time I was enlisted, I was doing Europe and Caribbean intermingled with visits home. So we were never home for more than 6 weeks. We were almost always underway, and I found that fascinating.
Wow. Now, just the just that travel, that world travel, there's a certain level of experience and knowledge that you get from books. There's another one from travel, and what are some of those experiences, those life experiences that you gain from being able to expose yourself to so many different cultures and continents?
Well, I'll say this, travel begets the appetite for more travel. You never get sated. It's never something that satisfies you and then you're done. You want to do more and more and more. So after the Navy, by the way, they tried to get me to stay. At that time, they were offering $10,000 to re-up or to re-enlist. And it was a tempting offer, but I remembered my reason for getting into the Navy was to get that tuition reimbursement, that tuition assistance. And so I stuck to my plan, even though they made it kind of hard. They made you interview your way out. You had to talk to the executive officer, and he would basically try to get you to stay. And then I had to be in front of the captain, and the captain of the ship, he would ask you pointed questions about what you were going to do with your life if you didn't stay in the Navy. I had a rank that was kind of well, they were hard to find. I was doing something that, well, they were looking for lots of people to train. And well, I was one of the few people that was, not few, but I was among those that was trained, and I was leaving. And so they made it hard for me to get out, but I got out, stuck with my plan, took my tuition, and went to Washington, D.C., where I am now. I went to college. College, unlike today's kids, for whom I have a lot of sympathy, I didn't have to struggle with student loans. The GI Bill actually did pay most of my college tuition. I wasn't a straight student, meaning I didn't just go to school, I was working as well. So I was a working student for basically 10 years. I worked while going to school and earned both a bachelor's and an MBA during that time. But that's
Wow.
not all. To answer your question, the job that I got during my working life was with Pan American World Airways. I got a ground job working in reservations, but I liked that because it was very flexible. You could work different shifts, you could trade days that you didn't want to work with others, and there was the benefit of free travel. Now, Pan Am, which you're probably too young to remember, Pan Am was the world airline. It went everywhere. So whenever I wasn't in school, I wasn't getting ready for tests, I trade off enough days so I'd have a block of time when I could go anywhere that Pan Am went, and Pan Am went everywhere. So I definitely was in Europe, sometimes for as little as a weekend. I've been to Africa. Uh, Stands out in my mind, Dakar, Senegal, and Cairo, Egypt. Loved them enough to go more than once. I've been to Australia. I've been to South America, Buenos Aires, Montevideo, Caracas, uh, and all over the United States. The various cities of the United States, I've visited all of the ones that I ever wanted to visit. So the Navy led to Pan Am, you know, the high school led to college. Um, I would love to tell you that I really had this grand plan, and I used to have a plan, but well, life had other ideas.
This is true. But the exposure is priceless, and it shaped your well view of the world, you know, and your place within it.
It's 100% about 1,000% about exposure. If you're exposed to things, it creates curiosity, and that curiosity creates a hunger, and that hunger makes you interested in things that you didn't imagine you'd be interested in. And one thing led to another, led to another, led to another. And like I said, I really did have in my mind a plan of what I was going to do and who I was going to be. But it's worked out better than my plan. Yeah, worked out better.
Okay, okay. Some good stuff. So it sounds like it, you know, the exposure actually made you it was what you needed to start the fire to explore, and the passion to continue to desire, want more exposure, which continue to lead you to different areas and different continents, and um, just gave you this well-rounded view of life.
I ended up there, yes. I think I was hungry to do some things in the beginning before I ever left home, but I wasn't from a very moneyed background, so these things had to come on their own or come as a benefit of doing something else like military service, you know, or like working for Pan Am and having that those travel benefits, and having the GI Bill so I could attend what essentially is one of the top 10 most expensive colleges in the United States. I'm a graduate, double graduate of George Washington University here in Washington, D.C., which is well known to be extraordinarily expensive. And yet my GI benefits cover most of my tuition. And what it didn't, then I was working, so I could put in my share of the dollars. Otherwise, how else would I have gotten through that except for through student loans? And well, you see what's happening with students today with those loans. So it
Absolutely.
worked out. It just worked out.
Really good for our audience. What would you recommend for those individuals that are nervous about being out or traveling outside of the world? You know, you had this burning passion to explore the world, but there are some people that have a phobia of of you know, travel or being outside of what they've normally done.
I agree with you. However, I'm going to segment those people in a way that hope I don't get into trouble. Whenever I've traveled outside of the United States. It's so interesting. I would run across other Black people, Americans that were traveling, but not just anybody. It almost always were Black women traveling together. They might be a part of a church group, they might be sorority sisters. And invariably, I would, you know, spend time with them because here we were, Blacks in wherever. And one question I remember asking often is, well, where are the men? Where are your husbands? And they were married, they were partnered, but their men were not interested. And so they let the women go to Europe, go to Africa, go wherever in groups by themselves. And the men stayed home and worked or, whatever. And I always thought that was so strange. The women were very, I was very like minded with these women. Let's get out and see this world. And their men just didn't want to do it and chose to stay home while the women traveled. Now, why? I still don't understand. But that's who I ran into when I ran into my fellow Black Americans in Europe. It was more often women than men.
You've heard it. Get out. Expose yourself.
I know. I never got that. I never did understand. I think there are more men now traveling, but certainly men don't travel in groups like women travel in groups. The sisters are doing it, and they are anywhere you go. You go to Sydney, Australia, you're going to run into a couple of Black women that are from the United States traveling, but you don't see brothers doing that. I don't think even now, not really. Mm-mm. But I'm trying to break that stereotype because I'm trying to go everywhere and often. I'm about to retire. Probably will be this year. I'm sure it'll be this year. What am I saying? After more than 25 years in government, I've worked for the United States Congress for 25 years. And thanks to a pension that that retirees of that system have, I can now think about doing something other than paying bills all the time. So my plan is to basically, on my bucket list, is to spend at least half the year outside of the country.
Breaking up on me a little bit, Rick.
All right, is there something I can do here on my end?
You said, can you repeat something, Rick?
I said, can you hear me? Is there something I can do here on my end to improve that?
Okay, I can hear you now.
All right, very good. Did you catch what I said last?
What I want you to do now, Rick, is just share. If you had one person that you could talk to and just share with them the things that you've learned, especially as a child. Like if you were, well, excuse me, if you were talking to your 15-year-old self, what would be that lesson that you would share with him?
Wow, I think it was really relax. It'll work out. You don't have to plan every step because it's not going to work out according to that plan anyway. But it'll work out even better. Mm-hmm. And what you have to do is relax, and as they say, go with the flow a little bit more. And you'll be interested to know that the flow is better than anything you had planned. That has been my lesson.
Powerful, powerful. All right, Rick, do you have any other last words for our listeners today?
Yeah, well, life is good. I have many friends that I was a child with who didn't live past their 20s or 30s. Some died at 40s. It's amazing how many souls have peeled off before before even adulthood. But it's been a steady flow, outflow of people leaving this earth. So of course, my lesson has been enjoy it, discover it, find out what's here before you go on to other worlds. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, Rick, thank you for spending some time with us today. My audience and I are very appreciative, and we respect your time and respect the fact that you spent some time with us to share your story. I really like the fact that you can't plan everything. You know, sometimes you got to go with the flow.
Absolutely.
Get out and explore. It
Yes.
opens up the passion to learn, and you'll be surprised what you learn as you go out to these different countries and expose yourself to different people and cultures.
Oh,
You'll be
yes.
surprised at the things that you'll learn that you would never learn by staying in the United States. So,
Exactly. Exactly right.
absolutely. Well, this has been Demetrius Irick, spending our time with Mr. Rick Irick, sharing his world travels with us. Thank you again for spending some time with us. Mr. Rick, thank you for your time. Go back to your home renovations. And
I
we truly appreciate you, my man.
appreciate the opportunity and best of luck to you, sir.
All right. You have a great day, Rick. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Journey podcast is sponsored by Akili Flow. Akili Flow is a culturally centered coaching organization that uses meditation and comedic yoga to help you balance your work and your life. Set up an appointment with them today. Visit www.akiliflow.com. That's AKILIFLOW.com and book your free session. We want to take a few moments to just thank our guest, Rick Irick, for sharing his experience of world travel. It's so important for us to expose ourselves to this world. This world is a lot bigger than the United States. So get out, exposure, get some stamps on your passport. If you don't have one, get one. The license, the life lessons that you will learn from being a world traveler, you won't find it in a book. Until the next time we meet, this is Demetrius Iyek, your host of Life Journey Podcast. Peace.